Heidi ho, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
I'm John Humphrey.
We are going to watch a video from Top Reward to your patron, the man, the only single human being in the world. When I say single, I mean singular human being who has a real Rejects tattoo. Eric Horstman.
Eric Horstman.
Handsome man from Atlanta. This video is called Deaf People Answer Commonly Googled Questions About Being Deaf. We recently just met another deaf person.
We did.
Exciting times we're living in.
And it made me wish that I wasn't such a heathen and I knew ASL.
Yeah, jerk. Eric says, okay, here's the vid. Pretty tame and short, but means a lot. One of my best friends growing up was deaf and bullied. It led me to learn ASL, which has been one of the most important things I've done. It's like living on a strange planet, not able to communicate verbally, but finding a whole new world of physical manifestation of words and life. And hey, if an alien race who can only hear sound invades, I'm good. Awesome. That sounds great, Eric. You are always positive. Let's do this.
That's right.
Mixy. It's definitely a video you must watch. Do deaf people think? Who asks that? What a dumb question. These are common questions? Their deaf accent. That's a cool way to put it. Wow, this is like shocking. I just find it shocking that people actually ask these questions.
I didn't know what driving would be like.
People have an Yeah, of course. Oh, that's an interesting. Okay, I like that question.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, fascinating. Probably, right? I'd imagine so. Oh. Wow, this is awesomely edited.
Back.
Oh, really? Huh. Aw. Of course. Yeah, I bet. Deaf people are probably super observant. Why would... Huh. What's channel? I'm genuinely gonna ask, why would someone... oh, BuzzFeed. Okay, BuzzFeed video. Why would someone be afraid? Do they feel like they're being judged or something because there's this barrier in communication?
I think they mean afraid in the sense that, like, when you're confronted with a situation, especially with another person where you don't know what to do and you can't rely on your, you know, if you don't know ASL, your basic form of communication, I think that is kind of a roadblock for some people that can freeze you up, you know, or maybe people don't want to engage because they don't know how. I feel like in those social situations especially, awkward things can probably happen from hearing folks.
I can imagine so. Andrew Gordon, one of his best friends is deaf, and so hanging out with him, and to me it's fun. Sometimes I just assume like people probably treat them a little differently or ask them like the most generic kind of questions. So
Can you think?
So I'm not gonna ask them or treat them like, that's just my instinct. Like I just think it's right to treat people differently for something like that. The only awkward interaction was just when I would ask a question. Like my question was, you know, like, because people naturally communicate with, I said this whole question is that do people naturally communicate with their hands sometimes? They're very animated with their hands. Do you ever get a little confused that they might be doing sign language? And then so Andrew had to interpret all that.
Interpret it, yeah.
And then he just went, no. So like it took like a minute for me to like communicate and Andrew to interpret it in sign language, and then he says no. Like that's really about as awkward as you can get. Some of these questions though, like the first few, it's like,
can deaf people
wow.
think and laugh and things like that? The head voice one I thought was an interesting one, but yeah, some of these questions are like, what do you think a deaf person's experience is?
Yeah.
They're not like a vegetable. They're not in a coma, you know?
I imagine that it can be isolating for certain deaf people, especially in a society, in a world where most people are not deaf. So people, I imagine, because they don't want to deal with the uncomfortableness and the language barrier, they just flat out choose not to communicate with them. We didn't grow up in a school where there was anyone who was deaf, so I don't know what like bullying is like for deaf people. I can imagine that some deaf people endure that though.
Especially at the hands of kids.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, I know that they addressed in this video your voice, you know, especially if you're a deaf child figuring out your voice or trying to use your voice. They said deaf accent, like I feel like that would sadly be kind of a prime target, you know.
My choice to make sure I don't act differently and just make sure to treat everyone equally, especially actually with meeting Will, and Will's seen some of these videos, so I'll just say it. The last thing I want is even for that to come across of, oh, I'm aware he's deaf. And
I thought really hard about this.
I don't want him to think I'm treating him differently because he's deaf, you know? Because I feel like deaf people probably, especially if you're like born deaf or develop something at an early age, you are probably a little bit more observant in picking up facial cues and how someone's emotions are responding to a conversation or a situation than most people. So I feel like the best way to just go about anything is just be as sincere as possible. I guess I was a little bit surprised by, in this video, the most commonly asked questions about being deaf, because like they're just people.
They don't demonstrate like a basic human. Like I don't know.
Yeah, like,
I
it's
feel like,
weird. Like they're just people.
I feel like we learned that really young. Deaf people are just people who cannot hear to varying degrees. Blind people cannot see, but otherwise, they're just people.
Yeah.
And so it seems really weird, yeah, that some people would have such a disconnect from that, you know?
Like, do deaf people think or do deaf people laugh? Like, oh my god, what the hell do you think?
Yeah.
They're not some like foreign being. What the hell is that? We're just talking about some weird segregation.
There's one sense impaired, and they say, I don't know how much truth there is, but they say if one of your senses is taken away or isn't functioning for whatever reason, your other senses compensate and get stronger.
That's why Daredevil can fight crime.
Exactly. All blind people can do that.
All blind people have magic powers.
They all have a mentor and magic kung fu powers. The ones I found really interesting in this video were, I honestly didn't know what the rules were about driving, because I know that like even for hearing people it's illegal to drive with 2 headphones in, so I assume that hearing is probably valued as part of the safety of being on the road, but apparently, yeah, that made a lot of sense to me that of course driving is a visual experience. I think the only sounds you'd have to be really looking out for are sirens, but those you can see. That would make sense. And then the other one was the head voice, because yeah, it's like if you didn't necessarily grow up hearing people speak and you have, you know, sign language and the written word as your guideline for language, yeah, like what does it come across as in your head? Like that's a very broad, abstract idea, you know, and that's something I find very interesting, and I'm glad they touched on.
But John, do deaf people feel?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Not physically.
they
No, you can
don't.
punch a deaf person, you can poke them, they won't even know. No nerve endings. No nerve endings in the deaf. It's a joke.
Can deaf people see?
Do they eat?
Do deaf people eat?
What happens if a deaf person needs to take a shower?
Hope you guys know these are not sincere questions.
We Googled all these questions.
We Googled all these. Actually, the questions I came up with from us constantly Googling.
The more I see things like this, the more I do want to take out some time to learn at least the alphabet or learn some basic sign language, just because that seems like a good idea.
You know when people do like foreign language gibberish? Like just racist gibberish?
Is it
like
offensive?
Like stuff like that. Can you do that with like sign language?
Yeah, is there like a really derogatory, snide, prejudiced joke? Yeah, like is there...
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody's found out a way
Yeah.
to mock sign language. Why would you do that?
I don't know.
I think you just look like an idiot, though.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Pretty
joke
sure
on you.
Pretty sure I just succeeded in that. All right, guys. Well, this is a very fascinating video, and I did learn some stuff too. Some really interesting things. Guys, you can subscribe to BuzzFeed Video. Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Will, if you're watching, what's up, buddy? And Eric Horstman.
I think you should get another tattoo, but of our channel name, The Real Rejects, written out in sign language, like as a tramp stamp. Just like all the letters across your back.
Could be a body tattoo.
Oh yeah, it could be like a full back piece.
Is this a map? Nope, just says The Real Rejects.
Is this Prison Break?
One day I will buy you a cup of coffee in person. What am I kidding? Knowing you, I'm gonna buy you a bunch of alcohol.
I'm gonna buy you a handle of rum.
Yeah.
A handle of moonshine or something.
I don't even think you drink anything else.
I'm gonna get you like a latex onesie and yeah, just let you do your thing.
Eric, thanks so much, buddy. This is a good video. See you guys.